podcast. I am one of your hosts, Raven.
And I'm one of your other hosts, Mark.
And we're here to do that thing where we talk to you for a little bit every week, doing some fun little things.
Y-
Uh,
this has kind of become my therapy. This ha-
love that for you.
this works out really good because it gives me a chance, especially the 10 minutes before we actually started recording, of me going, "Here's the problem I'm having with my kid," and but um, but no, this is great. This gives me a really good chance for me to, uh, I don't know, just talk kind of nerd stuff with another grown human being that shares similar interests, and I love it. It's my therapy. It's great.
That's fair. Everyone should have their own little thing that they look forward to every week. A little treat, if you will.
So, on today's show, it's the end of the year. We're doing our end of the year wrap up. We're talking movies all episode long, and I am so happy because movies have always been a big part of my life. It's a big part of the show. It's literally half the show. But we're talking about our favorite movies of 2022. Maybe even giving out our own award for our favorite movie. The Should we call it the nerdy? Floating on. I've been
The
sitting on that for like
nerdy.
2 weeks. Didn't know how I was going to present it, but like,
Oh,
yeah,
bless
it's
you.
the nerdies.
I think I think we should do that. That's gonna
Okay.
be that's gonna be our award.
Okay. Good.
Top nerdy.
And the nerdy for best actor goes to. Um. So yeah, that we're going to talk about what we're excited for coming up this next year because it's a kind of a big year next year for superhero movies and just movies in general. Um, and our movie for this week, the all-time Christmas classic, Gremlins, which watching it again, I've seen it many times over the years. Watching it this time, I I have more notes for this than I think I've had for any movie, and honestly, I wasn't even sure that I was even going to watch it because I was like, oh man, I've seen it plenty of times. And then I watched it and started taking notes and was like, this movie is a trip. So, but we'll
Hmm.
talk more about that later on in the show. Let's get into talking about our favorite movies. Raven, I'm going to let you lead us off. Tell
Alrighty.
us, in no particular order, but give us some of your favorite movies that you've watched this year.
All right. Well, of course, I had to look up all the movies that came out this year because,
And I feel
you
like
know,
I feel like you have an unfair advantage because you in fact work at a movie theater.
I do. And then before I was even back to working at a movie theater, I have a easy access to movie theaters since my boyfriend also works at one. I haven't paid for tickets for movies in 5 years, and I think that's wonderful because prices of tickets are outrageous these days.
Yes, they are.
But I'm going to start it out with one of the first movies that I saw at the very beginning of the year, and I still think that it's an absolute masterpiece, is going to be The Batman with Robert Pattinson.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. That movie, everything about it was just wonderful. I loved Robert Pattinson's performance in that. I know a lot of people were like, the little Twilight guy. No, no, this is a whole different level. So I would just like to say that's probably going to be like my top of all the movies that I've seen this year. It's my movie to beat, but I don't think there's anything else coming out that will beat it.
Unless
I don't know how
Avatar
you feel about it.
unless Avatar 2 is really good and not just like critics are going, "Oh, it's the best thing since Avatar 1." Cuz Avatar 1 really was not that good. It was the visuals were good, but watching it now amongst the Marvel movies, you're like,
Exactly.
You know.
And, you know, working in a theater, I know a few things. Like the fact that Avatar 2 is already not expected to do nearly as well
Mm-hmm.
as the first one. Which, of course, sequels are not always like the biggest thing. But here's the thing: when the first Avatar came out, it was of its own kind. It was all about the effects, the way that everything looked. It was beautiful visually. It just, everything was just, oh, aesthetically pleasing.
Mm-hmm.
But now we've seen it.
Yes.
We've seen the most beautiful effects that you can see within, you know, the Marvel realm, and then just a whole bunch of other things like Everything Everywhere All at Once. That
Yes.
movie in itself had so many beautiful, just like non-stop moments. And obviously we watched that one.
Yep.
I thought it was super good.
I enjoyed the hell out
Um
of it.
yeah, right? It was so packed with stuff, but it wasn't, you know, it was all meat. Like there was no like grit and fat to it. It was just 100% a good movie. Um I feel like another movie that also did super great this year was the new Doctor Strange movie. Did you watch that one?
Yes,
I feel like you did.
I did. I actually I actually
Oh
watched
no.
that in Long Island, New York, of all places, because I was traveling there with work, and I
Nice.
had an evening off, and was like, I'm gonna go see this, and I enjoyed it.
Hmm.
It's it kind of falls into that trap of like it falls kind of into the Marvel Phase 4 trap, where everything is just like, uh, you know, what are we doing? And it felt more in the best way possible. I say this, it felt more like a Sam Raimi movie than a Marvel movie. It felt
Mm.
very much like once it kind of turns into like that horror Evil Dead kind of aspect of it, you're like, man, like this is Sam Raimi. And
Hmm.
it was fine, but also there was a lot that was kind of dependent on did you watch WandaVision and some other things, and it just seemed like they could have just streamlined it a little bit more. I don't know. I watched it a couple times. It's not bad. I enjoyed it. I just hope everything in Phase 4, with the exception of Spider-Man No Way Home,
Hmm.
really seemed like it wasn't good, but it wasn't bad either. Except for Eternals. I didn't like Eternals at all. Um,
Yeah. No. I feel you on that one. Like Eternals had a chance to like really do something, considering the fact that it was, oh, but where were they during, all this other stuff that was happening?
right.
It was just kind of like, we didn't want to interfere.
Yeah, and then for some reason they put uh, a Blade voiceover as like the post-credit stinger, and that doesn't fit at all. Like that was a weird place to put Blade, um, and no, it didn't seem like any of the team members were actually kind of jiving with each other. It was weird. The Eternals was
Hmm.
weird, but that was a 2021 movie. So
I feel you.
to go back to the Batman real quick. Um,
Yes.
I agree with you 100%. The Batman was a fantastic movie. I really enjoyed Robert Pattinson. Uh, I remember Robert Pattinson getting a whole bunch of flack because, like you said, oh no, it's the Twilight Boy and he's doing the thing. I know you don't remember this, or at least I'm pretty sure you don't remember this, but I remember when they said that they cast Heath Ledger as the Joker, and
Hmm.
everybody, like the internet was just ablaze with nerds going, how dare they cast the guy from 10 Things I Hate About You, this pretty boy, as the Joker. They have ruined the Joker. Heath Ledger as
Mm.
the Joker. How did uh, obviously the best, arguably
Yep.
the best Joker. Um, so therefore, anytime they make some divisive type of casting, I'm always like, they're going to get the Heath Ledger pass. That's what I've dubbed it. They get the Heath Ledger pass. Like when they were like, oh, Ben Affleck is going to play Batman. for the Snyderverse. Everyone's like, "Oh man, Ben Affleck. Oh, what's he gonna do? Bring J Lo?" Like I heard all that shit. And Ben Affleck was the arguably one of the best parts of that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
He was not the worst part of that movie. So yeah, but the Batman movie in and of itself was great. Paul Dano, like I like the interpretation of all the characters that they did. The Riddler
Mm-hmm.
was great. Um, you know,
Oh my God, the guy that played the Riddler.
yeah, Paul Dano, he killed it. No pun intended. Um, but
Hee hee.
it was so good. Man, it was so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
Catwoman, I like how they gave her an arc, and at the same time, like, man, they there's a fine line where especially with a character like Catwoman, where you can mess it up, where either you make her too slutty or you make her just like this dumb, like this essentially a slut walking around in a cat costume and whatever, or you just kind of don't give her any real kind of. She's just there as eye candy, for the lack of a
Mm-hmm.
better words. They gave her like she had motivation, she had gold, she had reasons for doing the things that she was doing, and it was great. Zoe Kravitz again was wonderful in that role.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone did good. So yeah. All right, what else you got next?
Let's see. What else were we watching? I am a huge Bob's Burgers fan. And the Bob's Burgers movie came out this year. I don't know if you saw it,
I did not.
but I made sure I went to the theater, probably like within the first week or two of it opening, and it was lovely. I love that show so much. I got the best compliment ever yesterday, where one of my coworkers and I were sitting on the couch while I'm waiting for one of my dogs to come, and she's doing some work, and I said something, and she goes, "I hope you don't take this the wrong way, but you just remind me of Bob Belcher." And I was like, you know what? I love that. Thank you. But the Bob's Burger movie was just adorable. It was a good, like, little fun movie to go watch. It wasn't anything serious or, stuff like that. So I really had a good time with that. The last movie I'm going to talk about is the most recent movie that I've seen in the theater, which is The Menu. The Menu is phenomenal. I had absolutely no idea about anything that it was based off of until I had looked on our little screen and was like, me and these girls are going to go see this. I guess I should know at least what kind of a movie it is. Like, I love cooking movies. I love that good, like, pleasing moment where you watch someone, like, saute some stuff and you're just like, ooh, beautiful. I didn't realize it was going to be, like, a horror psychological type thing. And I loved it. Um, what's the guy's name? Ralph Phineas?
I have
Is
no
that his name?
idea.
The guy that plays, oh, I can't believe you don't know who I'm talking about.
Ralph Fiennes.
Yes,
Yes.
that's
Voldemort.
that man. Yes, of course, everyone's favorite. He plays the main chef, and he is this very dry, high performing chef where he's like, everything has to be perfect, and if it's not perfect, why am I here? And then you've got Anya Taylor Joy, love her. Absolutely just a beautiful creature that anytime she's in a movie, I'm like, I know this movie's going to be great. And then you had Nicholas Holt. How do you pronounce that? I don't know.
Holtz. Yeah.
That's what I thought. And then you have him sitting there trying to do everything to get the chef to notice him and just want to be his best friend. And he's just an annoying little prick that you just want to be like, bro, chill out. But honestly, it was a really good movie. And I would recommend it to anyone that likes those little psychological type things.
Cool.
So, What about you? What kind of movies were you mostly into this year?
Oh man. Um, there's been I think I've watched a lot of movies this year. Um, I've just a real quick some of the ones that I've just enjoyed, but they may or may not be necessarily quote unquote good. Um, there was a Jamie Foxx vampire movie that came out on Netflix called Day Shift.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
That was a fun
Yes.
that was a fun watch. It seems like very much in the same kind of just goofy vampire comedy. Like it was a fun watch. I hope they do more with it because I don't know
Hmm.
how much it how expensive it was, but it seems like relatively cheap, and I would love to see a sequel to it. Just seems like a fun thing they could shoot over a couple weeks. Everyone seemed like they got along. It was great. The vampire rules are kind of give or take. They couldn't really decide on the right rules to follow, but whatever. Um, let's see. I have kids. Turning Red was a big hit in our house. I will say this: I enjoyed it, but that movie is not for me. It is made for my daughters. It was a fun
Fair
watch. We
enough.
sing that made up song that the boy band in Turning Red. Like we still sing that in our house. Werewolf by Night from Disney Plus. That mini movie, the special presentation. That was a good movie or mini movie, short film, whatever we want to call it. Good, very not an ounce of fat on it. Surprise campy horror movie that I really enjoyed, the Foo Fighters Studio 666. uh Campy, great. Like you kind of know what you're getting into when you watch it, or you know, when you see the trailers and you're like, okay, I get it. Like it's Dave Grohl and company, and they're all it's a campy movie. Wonderful.
Interesting.
Um,
I don't think I had heard about that one. Interesting.
let's see, the Weird Al Yankovic movie with Daniel Radcliffe. I don't have that on my list, but I just thought about it. That is great. If you need to tune out your brain and watch the completely made up biography of Weird Al, that's the one to watch. Yeah, there's absolutely nothing that is true in that movie. They did zero research, and Daniel Radcliffe deserves some kind of award for playing Weird Al Yankovic. It's fantastic. Sonic 2, I enjoyed. I know that that is not a popular opinion because some people were like, "Brr, I don't like that Knuckles is dumb," but Knuckles is dumb. You know, they kept
Hmm.
him. They made him a certain level of dumbness, and they kept him there. He wasn't so dumb he couldn't function, but he wasn't smart enough to be like, "I get what's going on." You know,
Hmm.
I
Gotcha.
appreciated that. Um, surprise hits. Some of my favorite movies that I appreciated. The Chippendale Rescue Rangers movie. I was not expecting this movie to be what it was, or as dark as it was in some places, or the style of anime. Just about every aspect of this movie surprised me. Took me in a turn that I was not prepared to go. But it is
Mhm.
very much a modern day Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
I had actually forgotten that that movie came out this year, and I do remember like a surprising amount of people being like, "No, it was actually super good."
Yeah,
I was like,
and I follow a bunch of animators on Twitter because
hmm.
that's the way I keep like my Twitter algorithm from just shoving politics down my face. And it seemed like the animators were not happy with that movie. Like they seemed to be the biggest critics of the movie, and I couldn't figure out why. It really
Hmm.
just seemed like I don't know. Maybe one day we can get an animator on here and I can kind of pick their brain, but they just did not seem happy with the movie. They were like, "Oh, these jokes didn't pay off, or this here was just here for fan service." And how dare? And I was like, "What the hell's going on?" I don't know. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I thought it was great that they brought in like the bootlegging aspect. I thought that was such a good plot point. again, the different styles of animation, the claymation, just everything worked really, really good as far as I'm concerned. Um, let's see. The Adam Project, the Ryan Reynolds time traveling movie. I enjoyed that way more than I thought I would have had. That kid who played the young Ryan Reynolds in the movie knocked it out of the park. This kid has an amazing career ahead of him should he decide to take it. Um, it was a great PG-13 action movie. It was the type of movie that I was watching and I enjoyed thoroughly as an adult, but I know in my heart of hearts that 13-year-old Mark would have ate this movie alive, would have loved every second of it. This is a fun movie. The Adam Project on Netflix. Go check it out now. All right, top. I saw we kind of touched on the Marvel movies a little bit, and I'm going through these real fast. Raven, please, by all means, if you got something to say, jump in and say something. I'm just boom,
I'm
boom,
just
boom, boom,
let you
boom.
list off what you're enjoying, then, man.
Um, the Marvel movies I thought were fine. They were fun. Thor: Love and Thunder, Wakanda Forever, fine. Wakanda Forever. Have you seen it yet, Raven?
I still have not.
Okay.
We debated on going to see it this past Sunday,
Okay.
but
I,
Chris and I needed to get some Christmas shopping done.
okay. Then I will not spoil it, but I will say that there's a lot of stuff in that movie when I was like, "What are we doing here?"
Mm-hmm.
And I watched it, and I think the next day or the day after, Kelly went to watch it, and she came home and she was like, "That movie was terrible."
Ooh.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, me and her have completely different tastes for the most part. I won't say it's completely terrible, but there was a lot of stuff going on. And I'm just like, story wise, you know, none of this makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I don't want to skew. Whenever you see it, we'll have to talk about it.
Gotcha.
Okay, so now these next two movies. I'm gonna gush over because I love them so much. The runner up to my favorite movie that I've seen this year was Skull, the Predator prequel, sequel, reboot, however you want to say it in 2022. The Hulu movie. That
Mm-hmm.
shit was phenomenal. I went in there with zero expectations, not even having seen a trailer. I think I saw someone somewhere say, "Hey, go check it out." And I went and checked it out. And it's so good. Oh man. This actress, what is her name?
I feel like I know who you're talking about too, because I saw who it was and I was like, maybe I'll watch that.
Yeah, Amber Mid Thunder is her name. She gives a hell of a performance. I really like how they, you know what? I just liked everything about this movie. There was just so much good about it. They make this character who wants to be a hunter, and they use basically her what everyone perceive as her weakness, as her biggest strength against the predator. And I mean, almost just by kind of watching the trailer, you don't even realize that it is a Predator movie. But it's
Mm-hmm.
it's phenomenal. It is by far just one of those movies that I've gone back to watch again, and I'm just like, man, this is really just such a good flick. Have you seen Prey?
I have not. I did. I haven't ever actually really watched the Predator movies,
Mm-hmm.
to be honest. Um, but I do remember seeing like the preview for it and thinking it looked pretty good.
Yeah,
So this is this supposed to be like a prequel
yeah.
to the Predator?
It
Okay.
it, it is a prequel, um, and I dare say I think it's better than the original Predator. Um,
Mm.
it's because especially over the more recent iterations of the Predator movies, you know, they haven't been good, um, you know, or they've been just downright campy, especially the Alien versus Predator movies. And this is, I don't know, I think it's so good in its simplicity because there is a lot of special effects, but they're just, I don't know, there isn't at the same time. It's kind of grounded
Hmm.
in this. There's not a lot of technology. There we go. That's the word I'm looking for. It doesn't take place on a spaceship and you know around scientific or science fiction type aliens. It's all kind of in this 1700s, um, uh, you know, open plains of the burgeoning United States and around Native Americans and all this, and it's very simplistic and
Nice.
yeah. All right.
All right.
Uh, no one is more surprised by what I guess I think my top movie is of this year because I was thinking like, what did I enjoy more than this movie? And I really could not come up with a better answer than Top Gun Maverick. I am gobsmacked no that this is my favorite movie of the year because I loved
Interesting.
it.
Oh yeah.
This is such a good movie, and I'm not even that big a fan of the original. Like I
Hmm.
like the original. I haven't watched the original in 30 years, but um, I remember enjoying it. I've seen clips of it here and there, but uh, when they had a couple months ago, they did $3 movie day, and me and the kids went and we watched the Dragon Ball movie.
Hmm.
And Kelly went with another friend of hers. He was like, "We're gonna go see Top Gun." And I was like, "Oh man, you know, like I don't want to go see Top Gun. Whatever. I don't care about Top Gun." She came home and was like, "Shut up! You need to go see it." I was like, "Okay." Well, it had just released on digital, so I was like, "Well, I'm gonna check this thing out on digital." So we watched it like that evening. We watched it in the house, and um, for my wife to sit there and basically rewatch a movie after she just watched it, that's how I knew it was going to be good because she does not do that.
Mm.
And this movie's great. It's simple. Again, simple. There's not really an ounce of fat on this thing. The stunts are great. Um, just I don't really know how to feel about. I'm processing a lot here, thinking that Top Gun is my favorite movie of 2022. What is even going on in a year where Doctor Strange came out, Thor came out, Wakanda Forever came out, Sonic 2, The Batman, all these movies that should be like, "Hey Mark, this is what you've been waiting for." Yeah.
Interesting.
So,
Yeah, my grandparents went to see it, and they were like, "Do you want to come watch it with us?" I was like, "No, I've never even seen the original Top Gun." And so my grandfather was like, "Whatever, your loss." And then they saw the movie, and my grandfather's rating scale of when a movie is good is he literally just goes, "It's killer." And he just kept saying that. And I was like, "All right, my man. Glad you had a good time." So I'm going to assume you had the Gene rating scale of killer.
yeah, it's killer. So with that, what are you most excited about for next year, though?
Dude, I was looking through the movies that are supposed to come out next year because I was like, I know there's some big movies. The number one movie that I am, of course, excited to see is the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Yes.
I loved the first one. It was so beautiful. The animation was beautiful. Everything that they did, I loved. And so I'm really hoping they put as much like tender love and care into this next one as they did the first one.
Yeah.
Because
And I
I'm ugh,
yeah, and I
I haven't stopped talking about it as soon as I saw like the first trailer. I was like, Chris, Chris, I gotta go see it. I want to see it real bad. And I was like telling my grandparents, I was like, I want to see the new Spider-Man. And they're like, okay.
and that first Spider-Verse film is probably the best Spider-Man story that's been put to film. I know that there's been what five, eight live action Spider-Man movies in the last 20
Mhm.
years, played by three different actors, three different Spider-Man. Um, they have been good or bad, or I don't want to say bad. I don't think any of them's been bad. But across the not across the Spider Verse one was it was those cats knew what they were doing, and I like how they changed the origin story, but they did it in such a way where it wasn't. Uh, they changed it and made it better. I
Mhm.
felt more connect. Well, I felt as an audience member, I felt more connected to the characters, the way that the transition of power from, from Miles to Peter, and the way they did all of that. I really enjoyed it, and I like you very much am super excited. That is for sure one of my top rated. I can't wait for this movie to come out next year.
Absolutely. Um, I'm gonna say that there's a few movies which I am excited for in a different way than movies that I would be normally interested in watching. I'm really interested to see how this new Little Mermaid's gonna do.
Huh.
Um, I don't know if your girls are interested in it, but after seeing that like first little clip, and then I saw all over Twitter these these women of color showing their daughters the Ariel that looks like them, and these little girls just getting so excited for it. I don't care how much backlash it gets. I'm excited for it. I know that some people are like, "Oh, but it's not." Who cares? It's a movie.
Right.
Mermaids aren't real unless you're me and you totally believe in mermaids. But that's another story. But I'm just really excited. I want to see a beautiful little underwater world come to life. But I'm also excited to see this new Barbie movie. Have you seen like any of the
I've seen the pictures that have come out.
there's a lot.
There
There's a
is.
lot that you get to see in there.
I think I think this might fall into the realm of I'm I don't know if I'll go see it in the theater, but I will definitely check it out because I think that curiosity will get the better of me.
Of
And I
course.
and unless someone comes out and is like, this movie is just a steaming pile.
Mhm.
But but yeah, I think curiosity will probably get the better of me, and me and the girls will sit around and watch it.
Sounds good. Sounds good. There's gonna be a new M Night Shyamalan movie. It's called Knock at the Door or
Hmm.
Knock at the Cabin. That's what it's called. And I've seen the trailer for it, and it looks pretty cool. And I'm real big into the M Night Shyamalan type movies because I like the weird little, you know,
Yeah.
weird little things that that man comes up with. So I'm excited for that. The last movie that I'm interested in seeing is just because my oh
Bless you.
It's what happens when you're 15 and you just hack all the time. Bless him. But my family does a book club every month, and we read this one book called The Nightingale, and it's coming out as a movie next year. And so I'm just interested to see how they portray it. It's it's like a movie that takes place during the Holocaust, or the book takes place during the Holocaust. It's beautifully written, and so I just really hope that they perform the same. Um, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't even know. I
The,
just hope that it goes as well as the book, to
okay.
be honest.
They're faithful
What
to the
about you?
source material. Uh,
Hmm?
uh, they're faithful to the source material.
Yes.
All right.
Fair enough.
All right. Let's
What
see.
movies are you looking forward to?
Man, there's a bunch of comic book movies coming out next year that I have medium to high hopes for. The Guardians 3, the trailer for that
Yeah.
came out a couple weeks ago. That looks like I'm going to be crying for no reason. So, I never thought I'd say that about a Guardians movie. Let's see, Ant-Man 3. I don't think I'm going to be crying at that, but I hope that this is the game changer where we start kind of getting back on track and having a kind of a singular focus that we're working towards for the MCU. Um,
Hmm.
let's see what else. This is I'm more curious about this just because I want to see what's so important about it at this point in time. And we can talk about the other news that we just found out today regarding surrounding this. But the Flash movie with Ezra Miller that has been supposedly complete for the last year or more and kept getting
Yeah.
pushed back, and Ezra Miller has been a trash human being. And
Yeah.
inexplicably, they have decided to keep this movie around and not cancel it. But they've canceled the Batgirl movie, and we will never ever see that movie ever because they're trying to get insurance money on that movie, and should they release it in any capacity, then they will have to give that money back. So I know that we, as the general viewing public, will never see this movie.
Mm.
But the word around the campfire is that a few people who work at the studio have seen this movie, besides the executives, and said, this movie was great.
Mm.
And I'm upset because now I want to see it. And we never will. And they canceled that. They canceled the Batgirl movie and decided to keep the Flash. With all of this, with James Gunn taking over DC or the DC films, along with who's the guy, his buddy, Peter Safran. I don't think it's Saffron. That's a spice. Anyway,
Spice of life.
right. But we'll just say James Gunn. With James Gunn in charge now, you know,
No, you were right. It's saffron.
okay. Um, with those two guys in charge now, they wiping everything clean, getting rid of the Snyderverse, getting rid of everything else, and starting from scratch, which I understand. Because if any of those other guys show up in any capacity, then Zack Snyder gets a producing credit. I
Hmm.
understand that. I'm sure they probably want to cut him out completely and just say, cool, we're going to do our own thing. The thing that really sucks is the news that came out today. Raven, me and you were talking about this before we actually started recording, was Henry Cavill is not returning as Superman. And
That poor man.
this honestly breaks my heart.
Yeah.
I feel like he was one of the better Supermans that we had.
You can also tell that he really loved it.
Right.
Like, I feel like he's such a genuine guy. I don't know. I feel like he's one of those guys that would probably be like, oh, you want to take a photo with me?
Yeah,
And would never turn it down, would just be like, yeah, 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 yeah. He seems like a
he does.
genuine person.
Yeah.
And so the fact that he's like, hey, just so everyone knows, I quit Witcher to come back as Superman, and now I have neither.
Yep. Yeah.
I feel bad for him.
Yeah. But I really hope that as a consolation prize, I hope that maybe the MCU will pick him up in some capacity because I'm sure he will really enjoy that. Where he can slide into the MCU, I don't know. There's literally no telling where he could slide into. Um, but you know, X-Men maybe, possibly. Um, I'm sure we will see him in some other imagination or imagining. There we go, of some nerd culture property. This is
Mm-hmm.
not the last we've seen of this man. So, yeah. But on the flip side of that, I'm very curious to see what James Gunn does with the DC properties.
Mm-hmm.
Because I really think that as much as we love Cavill as Superman, I think he got the shaft by having Zack Snyder direct his Superman movie.
Yeah.
He made Superman this dull and brooding character, like just these watered down palettes, and that's not Superman. I want James Gunn to make a bright colored Superman movie that that isn't dumb.
Yeah. When you think back to like the original Superman movies and you're like, oh, bright blue skies
Right.
with the beautiful blue and red suit and saving all the pretty ladies and blah blah blah. But yeah, no, that movie did feel very gray, very dull.
hmm
So
So,
I feel like James Gunn will
yeah.
do some good.
And I think the last of the kind of old guard of DC movies that is coming out is Shazam 2. Um, I can
Yeah.
almost guarantee you that there is a Black Adam Easter egg in there that The Rock has already filmed that they will show or they won't. Either they'll show it and it'll go nowhere and everyone will be like, oh man, The Rock is still in the thing. Or they'll just be like, nope, cut it. We're not doing it. We're not going to give anyone any hope because that's a one and done now. We're not bringing The Rock back.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, I enjoyed the first Shazam movie. I thought,
Yeah.
what's his name? Zachary Levi did. I think he's a great Shazam. This nice blend of just a good. I mean, he's a good actor. He's goofy. He played that role wonderfully.
Hmm.
Besides all the comic book movies that are coming out next year, there is the last Fast and the Furious movie, Fast X. Apparently, that's filming now. Supposed to be out towards the end of the year.
Hmm.
I love the Fast and Furious movies because they are dumb as shit. I've gotten to the point where I used to just be so frustrated by these movies, like just, and then something happened in my brain where it switched, and I have to just enjoy and embrace the dumbness of these movies. The fact that Vin Diesel is basically a superhero now, like with superhuman strength, is absurd to me. I mean, they went to space in a taped
Yeah.
up Fiaro last movie. Ludacris and Tyrese were literally in space. And I was talking to Chris about this movie. And I said, Chris, like, I am on board that these movies do not abide by the laws of physics or just, anything in general. But the part of the movie where I literally looked at the screen and said, oh, fuck you, was the part where Tyrese and Ludacris are sitting in a car, getting ready to go to spaces. They're wrapping duct tape around their impromptu spacesuits. Excuse me, dive suits that they have somehow converted into spacesuits with
Mm.
duct tape. And Tyrese is going, man, I don't know about this. This doesn't seem safe. And Ludacris, without cracking a smile, looks at Tyrese seriously and goes, man, it's science. If we just trust the math or trust the science, we'll be okay. And
Bro.
yeah, I was like, dude, come on. Come on, man. Like, you could have written any other line for this character to say, but to say, trust the science as you're getting ready to literally be shot into space with a car with a big booster rocket on the back of it. Come on.
Yeah, I might have watched like one of them, but honestly, I've never watched these movies. But Chris watched the last one in the theater, and he wouldn't stop talking to me about it. He was just like, Raven, they did the dumbest shit possible. I need you to. He kept trying to pull up clip after clip, and I was like, dude, I can't take any of this. Like, obviously, no one's gonna take it serious. But, like, how am I supposed to watch this and just be like, yeah, I'm so glad they just keep producing these?
You know, I'll tell you this. I can't remember which one it is because I always get the numbers mixed up. But there was one where the big action scene at the end of the movie was they were chasing an airplane down a runway. More specifically, a C-17. Now, I have worked on C-17s for the better part of 10 years. And they're chasing what is essentially a C-17 down a runway. There is a Jeep, there is a like, I don't know, like a Lancer, a Mitsubishi Lancer, your standard Fast and Furious cars, and they're like, oh, we got to shoot this air, we got to shoot these harpoons into the spoilers so it won't take off. Also, this aircraft also has cars in it. Presumably, it's loaded up with fuel, whatever. But as I'm watching this, my maintenance brain starts kicking in, and I'm watching this aircraft go down this runway for like 15 minutes. And I'm like, this is the longest runway in the history of the world. And also, I'm thinking to myself, you're going to shoot, like, this airplane can take off with your little Jeep strapped to the, strapped on the side of this thing if it really wanted to,
Yeah.
like, you guys would not be able to catch it. But I was sitting there in the theater just beside, just, what the fuck is this? And Kelly's rolling her eyes because she's like, oh, turn off your aircraft brain. And I'm like, I can't because it's ridiculous. We've been on this runway for 15 minutes. Someone on Reddit did the math, and they were like, okay, if we're going at this speed for this long, like, this runway is like 37 miles long.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So, and then somewhere a couple years later, so I was listening to some podcast or someone was talking about it. I was like, this really is a great movie. Like, if you shut your brain off, this is probably like one of the greater action movies, like in line with the corny 80s action movies. And I was like, man, he's right. Like, that was a really good movie. So, yeah. And then it became all about family, and it just kind of became its own running meme. And if you can
Oh, family.
shut your brain off, and watch it, then it's phenomenal. So, yeah, that's what I got to say about that.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Let's see. Apparently, there's a new Ninja Turtles movie coming out next year.
Oh, really?
Yes, this is one I've heard rumors about for a while. It's the one that Seth Rogen is producing.
Oh.
Hopefully, we'll get some footage of it soon. It's on the slate. We'll see. Seems like it'll be fun.
Okay.
We were talking about this before we started recording. There's a new Transformers movie coming out.
That's like its own version of a Fast and Furious. That's just like, hey man,
It is.
we can cut it out now. It's fine.
I don't think I've watched an entire Transformers movie since the second one, and I didn't like the second one. I thought the first one was great, at least for the
Yeah.
time. I haven't watched it in probably 10 years. But the first one, I loved the first one. I thought it was great. The second one, I was like, oh boy, this is a lot of CGI whoop de doo. And I think I've seen bits and pieces of the other ones, and everything is shot in like this swooping low camera angle and spinning around. I'm like, every shot looks like a music video. This does not, it doesn't look like a movie. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Actually, no, I saw the Bumblebee movie with Haley Steinfeld and John Cena.
Oh
That was
yeah.
actually
I
kind of,
forgot about
yeah,
that.
that was actually kind of good. So
Okay.
one that I am looking forward to very much so is the Dungeons and Dragons movie with
Oh
Chris
yeah.
Pines. That looks like that looks like a fun movie. That looks
Mm.
like someone who plays D&D very lovingly wrote a movie about their campaign. Where it's like, hey, we did a thing, and inadvertently we created a bigger problem that now we have to go fix. So, and who made you the leader? Like, what do you do? And then someone's like, oh no, he plays the lute. He's a bard. Uh, so
I think that'll be a good movie to do something that's like, in that realm of like mystical magical. That's something that we don't typically get, you know? Like I feel like we have a lot of movies that it's just like, okay, okay. We've seen it. But a D&D movie, I feel like there can be a lot of interesting characters in that because the world of D&D is limitless.
yeah,
Just
and
just never ending.
a buddy of mine, um, he plays tabletop role playing games, and I play D&D and a few other tabletop role playing games. But we have agreed that we will never play a game together because he very much does not like the way I play the games, which is fine. I'm not one of these people who just burns down a campaign when we start playing, but I do like to, I do like to have fun.
Mm.
There's certain rules that I don't like to adhere to when I'm playing. Just uh, uh, are we gonna worry about how much gear we're doing and keep strict count of eating rations and all like this kind of minutia part of D&D that I don't think adds to the story or the gameplay for that matter. And he is very much like, nope, it's in the rule book for a reason. We have to do it this way. So,
Hmm.
and he said this great saying that some people play D&D like Lord of the Rings, and other people play it like Monty Python. And he said, "You are Monty Python, and I'm Lord of the Rings." And I said, "I understand that analogy." Uh, and I think that this D&D movie is going to be like that good happy medium. It's going to
Hmm.
be it's going to be a fantasy movie where we can have fun. We can be goofy without everything being like this high elf, you know, oh my god, we have to do the thing. What are we going to do? And just all this stuff. And I can't wait. Plus, I like Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez. So,
Yeah.
um, somehow this has gotten top on my list, and I don't know how I feel about this. Again, I don't know how we got here, but we're here. The Mario movie.
Ugh.
I have watched the trailers, and honestly, I think everybody except Chris Pratt is going to knock it out of the park.
Yeah. We've been in the discords and everywhere, just constantly looking at everything that comes out and it's just like, okay, okay. Some people are really putting their all into it and then you got Chris Pratt that's just like, "Hey, what's up? I'm Mario."
Right. And I think, listen, I don't know much about Chris. Well, I know a little bit about Chris Pratt, but I think Chris Pratt was put in an impossible situation. because I can guarantee you there's hours of footage in a vault somewhere of him trying out different voices. And it was everything from, the stereotypical, just like woo, woo,
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the actor's name who does them in the games, but there is, I guarantee you, where he tried everything, and they do a scene and you're like, nah, that's not gonna work, man. Like, we need to try and do something else. And he was like, I'll just
Yeah.
do my regular voice and we can tweak it a little bit, you know. And they were like, cool, we'll do that. Just play it safe. Because if he would have went in there and be like, oh, Mario, hey, oh, give me some pizza, oh, did that type of thing, or did like you know, the quote unquote stereotypical Italian thing, then he would have been raked across the coals.
I feel like he's going to get backlash no matter what.
Yeah,
Because everyone's already just been ripping into him like you're just gonna be Chris Pratt as Mario.
yeah,
It's not even just gonna be like we don't even get half of Mario. So I don't know. When it comes, everyone will make their judgments.
yeah. I don't think
But
he's going to be bad. I just don't think he's going to be good. And I
yeah.
think put up against Jack Black is Bowser, who
Ooh,
I am
yeah.
I am all about that. I thought he was going to play it a little differently. I thought honestly he was just going to be Jack Black as Bowser, not doing a voice. But I'm happy with what he did. So there.
Fair enough.
With all of our cool fancy movie stuff out of the way, do you got any other movie stuff you want to talk about before we get into our movie this week?
I mean, not unless you want to talk about the most amazing movie that's supposed to come out next
Oh,
year
that's right.
of Cocaine Bear.
Cocaine Bear. How could we forget? Man,
How dare
I
we?
know. Because we were going to talk about this last week, and we decided to push it so we could just keep all our movies together. This movie looks completely idiotic, and I am all about it. This this is that type of Monty Python type of nonsense that I'm just all for.
True.
So that they say that this is based off of a true story. Are you familiar with the
It
story?
is. I am. I actually listened to My Favorite Murder, which is a podcast, and they did an episode about the cocaine bear, which is how I found out about the actuality of the cocaine bear. And when I first heard about the movie, I was like, there's no fucking way they're doing this shit, right? But I am excited for
Well,
it.
what's the
I
story?
hope.
Enlighten us with the story.
Do you actually know the story of Cocaine Bear?
Yeah. I mean, it's not from what I.
It's not like anything
Yeah,
crazy.
the movie takes a lot of liberties with it.
I hope that it's just packed with the stupidest stuff that they can imagine.
Oh, I hope so too.
But Cocaine Bear is essentially a bunch of drug smugglers. Isn't this so I know there's like Cocaine Bear. There was also Cocaine Hogs at one point that I have heard about too.
That's the sequel.
Yeah, that's the sequel. Is the Cocaine Bear the one where they're like transporting drugs through like a helicopter and somehow the bags fall out? It's
Yes.
one of the two.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
It's very much to hijack your story here. The big difference is the real life version of this story is very kind of uneventful, other
Mm-hmm.
than you know the cocaine gets dumped in the woods, and later on when people are looking for this cocaine, they find that it's all ripped apart and that a bear has gotten into it, and they find this bear dead because basically he snooted, essentially like 3 pounds worth of cocaine
He
in his heart, for all intents.
hardcore
Right.
overdose.
And that's it. But I think there was a stand. That's right. There was a stand-up comedian who said that for like 30 minutes there was no, like, he was the apex predator on Earth. Um, there was a high cocaine fueled bear running through the woods, just ready to fuck everything up. So, and this movie basically takes that premise of a bear gets cocaine and then goes on a killing spree because he's high. Yes.
What a ride.
Right, exactly. So, this will be right up there with the. I feel like 3 years ago this would have been aired right after Sharknado 5. You know,
Yeah. I feel like it's gonna be one of those type of just the most outlandish stuff where they're just like, you know what, anything goes.
yep, it's very Snakes on a Plane vibe, where everyone knows exactly what you're getting when you walk into a movie called Cocaine Bear. So, yeah, it's just missing Sam Jackson.
Oh my god.
but we got Ice Cube Jr., so hopefully that serves as a suitable substitute.
Well, we only got away a few more months, so.
Yeah. All right, let's talk.
So would you?
Let's talk Gremlins.
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh man,
I know you have quite a bit of notes.
I have
from what
thoughts.
you have told me.
Yes. All right. So before we really get into it, um, I ask you this every week, Raven. Did you like it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What's your initial thoughts on Gremlins? And actually, this one is your choice for this week. So I'm kind of curious, like, what's your history with Gremlins? I mean, the movie's only like almost 40 years old now. So
Oh, you know. So I, of course, grew up watching Gremlins. I grew up watching like all those like 80s style horror movies, blah 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 blah, and I love them. I started watching this movie and was like, I don't remember any of this. Like there is very few scenes that I'm like, oh yeah, no 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 no, I remember that. Like I remember you know, the classic three rules of no bright lights, no water, no food after midnight. But the rest of it, I was like, hmm, this is this is such an interesting little movie. I still like it. I still think it's a cute, fun movie. Steven Spielberg did a good job with, especially for the time that it was being made. Like, the Gremlins don't look phony. You
no,
know?
the Gremlins are actually. I dare say, even watching it now, the Gremlin design and the performance or functionality, or however you want to say, because if they did it now, all of those Gremlins would be CGI.
Exactly.
I think the Gremlins 100% work.
Yeah. For its time, it was beautiful. Like people were probably looking at it like, how are they doing this? Is this a puppet? Is it animatronic? Is it blah 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 blah? But I think it's a good movie. And of course, we decided to watch this movie for the season that we are in, the lovely Christmas season.
Indeed. More
So here's the
more of
thing.
a Christmas movie than Die Hard.
I'm so glad you agree. At least there was way more Christmas vibe other than just, hey, we're at a Christmas party.
Yeah.
Uh, there's a single tree in here. Merry Christmas, guys. Anyways, but yeah, I I like Gremlins. What about you?
uh,
What are your feelings on Gremlins?
well, I was. Oh man. Gremlins holds a special place in my heart because Gremlins was the first movie that I saw in the movie theater when I was young.
Mm-hmm.
The first one. Um, let's see. I believe, where is it? I want to make sure I'm okay. Yes, in fact, it was rated PG. I believe it was this movie. A lot of people cite Temple of Doom, but I believe it was Gremlins that made Hollywood go, we got to have something in between PG and R. And this was the reason for PG-13 was this movie. Yeah.
Oh.
Um, this movie I loved as a kid. I still
Mhm.
enjoy it now. I don't want to make it seem like I didn't enjoy this movie. Um, but watching it now critically, uh, I didn't enjoy it as much. I was very much like you. Like I remember very specific scenes, and those always are very fond. But when you put them together, it's not as good as the sum of its parts. Does that make sense? So like the individual scenes are good, but when you put them all
Mhm.
together, you're like, wait a second, hold on, stop, time out. You know, and the I guess we can kind of get into my notes here. Um,
Go for it.
Everything happens so incredibly fast in this movie, and not just like in the context or like in the like thing of the movie, but I'm talking like in the time span of that the film is taking place in their world. Yes.
Mhm.
Oh, good night, kiddo. Thank you. But everything is taking place so fast, and I started kind of keeping the time. Essentially, this movie takes place over like 5 days.
Mhm.
Um,
I mean, the movie is actually relatively short. It's like an hour and 45
right.
minutes.
It gets in and gets out, and
Yep.
I do like that. That I'm not in there for 3 hours trying to figure out the exact how time zones work for Gremlins. But here's what I have. I have the note. Everything moves so fast. Corey Feldman dumps water on them less than 24 hours after Billy gets Gizmo. Billy gets Gizmo, uh, like whatever night it is, like day zero. He gets him in the evening. The next the next afternoon, we'll say they're up in the attic, and this kid shows up, and the kid shows up in like the afternoon. It is daylight outside. He's like, "Hey, come up here and check this out." They go upstairs. This kid dumps some water on him. So like less than 24 hours later, they have multiple Mogwai. 24 to 36 hours later, he feeds them after midnight their gremlin eggs. 8 hours later, they hatch and we got full blown gremlins. Um, and then presumably after that, not even after that, because everything else takes place that evening. So really, like 4 days, we're looking at all this stuff happening, and everyone except Billy's mom and probably Corey Feldman are trash people. Um,
Fair enough. Fair enough.
of course, Billy's dad. He gets this Mogwai under suspect circumstances. He's a terrible inventor. He's like, we have people like this in our family, and I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. If not, I'll tell you off air. But people who are just like so concerned with trying to make a sale or make a dollar, and you're just like, now is not the time to do that, sir.
Mhm.
We have more important things going on, right? We don't need you trying to, push this dumb stuff that you're trying to do because you're looking like a straight ass right now. Um, this is the vibe that I got from Billy's dad. Uh, Billy's dad at the end of the movie after he gets chastised for essentially getting this gremlin or this mogwai under suspect circumstances. He's like, "Sir, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Here, have one of my inventions that I've made." Like, now's not the time, dude. Like, read the room. Uh, when he comes downstairs and sees a whole bunch of mogwai, his first response isn't like, "Oh, this is bad because everything is water." There's literally, snow everywhere that will turn into water. This is bad. Um, he's like, "Oh, we can get these to everybody. We'll call it the Peltzer Pet. We won't call it Mogwai. I got to put my name on." Oh, shut up, Billy's dad. You know,
Right. Not everything's a quick buck, my man.
right? And he's a terrible inventor. Terrible inventor.
Oh,
Um,
horrible inventor. I I genuinely love the looks between Billy and his mom anytime they were like in the kitchen and they're like, we have to use one of the inventions. What if he just walks in and we're trying to do it the normal way?
yeah, and they
And
they
they're
entertain
yeah.
them. Let's see the. Oh man. Um. Let's see the rules. Okay, you ready to talk about rules?
Of course.
What are your thoughts on the rules now? Looking at this.
All right. So first of all, Billy's dad is like, "Here, Christmas gift." This little thing is literally in a box and it's just wrapped up in paper. I'm like, how's it breathing? What's going on in here? He undoes it, to which he's like, "All right, turn off the lights." And then mom instantly goes to get like a flash photography and he doesn't say anything about it. He's like, "Yeah, it is a little dark in here, but I'm gonna just let her take this picture." And then he was like, "Oh, sorry. Let me let you in on the rules, by the way." Like Billy's dad was just like, I'm gonna just play it by ear. Essentially, is what it feels
Yeah.
like. I was very curious about the no water. What? How is this thing staying alive? Obviously, everything needs water to fully stay alive. I was thinking about it very logical because I was like, yeah, it doesn't bathe. What is it? A chinchilla? But even chinchillas get water. So I was like, that's a little gross. And then Billy's just over there, just like cuddling with it. Also, let's not forget that Billy literally like startles it the very first night that he has it, and it gets like a little cut on its head. Like, this whole movie was just, you know, nobody was thinking.
Yeah. Uh.
Brain instantly turned off the moment anyone met this thing.
Yeah.
They was just like, oh, he's cute. We can do whatever.
The rules, the part of the rules that really get me the most, it's like consistently break every single one of the rules at some point. For example, the bright lights or sunlight will kill it. There are parts in this movie where sunlight or bright light for that matter is coming through the windows
Yeah.
and everyone's fine with it. Gizmo's cool with it. The gremlins are cool with it. And I'm like, but there's sunlight and he's fine. You know, but unless it's convenient, like when the gremlins start attacking the mom in the kitchen, which we're going to talk about that scene in a few minutes, it's daylight outside. And then when she walks into the living room where she gets attacked before Billy comes home with a sword, uh, like it goes literally from like late afternoon to dark quickly. And I'm like, y'all are pushing it. Most people wouldn't notice it, but seeing how that is one of the rules, and I'm watching it like this, in this kind of environment where I've seen it so many times and now I'm taking notes for it, I 100% notice it. Like the daylight thing was really starting to get me until we get into the third act of the movie when everything is nighttime.
Yeah.
But they're watching a movie and they're watching Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and that's a bright light, and they didn't have any problems with it.
Right?
Again, the water thing. Okay, Stripe jumping in the pool. I love it. Again, I love individual scenes from this movie, but at the end when he is climbing up the water fountain to stick his finger in the top and be all dramatic, he's already wet from the water. Why is he not
Right.
bubbling? So,
It's dramatic effect.
and
He was just holding it
I
in.
guess in time zones, do we not do it? Does eating after midnight not affect for time zones? Like, how do we do this?
True.
Come on.
True.
So,
Also, the fact that my man was really like, oh, they've still got time. They can have a little snack. He grabbed an entire plate, and I saw this. It was all chicken legs. And it's like,
They were sitting
first of
uncovered
all,
in his refrigerator.
exactly. Why would your mom just be like, here's like 25 chicken legs that I'm just going to stick on a plate in this nice little stack
And
in our fridge?
that is such an 80s movie thing.
That cracked me up so hard when I was like, what? Also, the fact that this man didn't even like ever think to be like, let's just make sure that they didn't accidentally chew through it.
Right. And,
Like, it's a bunch of little animals. You know, you get a new puppy, they chew through everything. What makes you think that these little mogwai aren't going to do the exact same thing?
right. And there is not, I know when I was younger that I told time a lot by what was on TV. It was,
Mm-hmm.
oh, it is 11 o'clock at night. The news is on TV. Or, hey, I'm watching this movie. So I know it's between this time and this time because this movie started at, I don't know, 10 o'clock. There's like, because he's actively watching TV. So
Yeah.
I know that he has to know, like, have some kind of semblance of what time is. And you mean to tell me he didn't pass another clock at all, going from his attic downstairs to his second floor, then downstairs again to his kitchen to get to get food. It's yeah.
Maybe they're just a one clock household, you know?
It's like a casino. So, what did you think of once they get to cocoon stage, where Billy's first thought is, I'm going to take this cocoon to a middle school science teacher.
Oh, yeah. When he takes the,
Oh yeah, he takes Gizmo.
it pops
That's
out.
right.
Or no, he finds out that they do their little thing once they get a little water in them. So he takes his own little homie. It's like, hey, this is Gizmo. Watch what happens. Takes like a little dropper, and I'm like, my guy, you were told not to do this. Maybe there's a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like, I'm gonna go for it. So he gets a whole new one. And then they all decide to eat the exact same night, of course.
Yes.
Because, telepathic Mogwai. Uh, and so my man really just like left the sandwich. He took like 2 bites out of the sandwich and is like, oh, better grab my bag of chips. And just walks out. Who's gonna leave just an entire sandwich on a school surface? Most schools aren't gonna be like, yeah, we can just have food in the classrooms
Right.
because, there's there's no telling what lives in any school you ever walk into. Sure, you can spray for things, but there's cracks and crevices everywhere. And so I was like, that's kind of gross in itself, especially him being a science teacher.
Yeah.
Uh, and so then, obviously, little Mogwai, sneaky, sneaky, sandwich into the cage. And then the next thing you know, he's trying to cut open the cage with the like wire cutters.
Right.
And I'm just like, what are you doing here? Maybe just leave it.
Right. The man. Okay, so again, because I'm watching it in this environment, we know if you see well, at this point, like he's already fed the grip or he's already fed the Mogwai after midnight, and then we immediately cut to the teacher, and it shows on the clock in the background. It's like 2:30 in the morning. Hold on.
Yeah.
This is one of those things where I'm like, okay, this is a middle school science teacher, and he's at school at 2:30 in the morning. Sir, no, you are not. You are absolutely not in this classroom at 2:30 in the morning going, well, I gotta go home and get some rest. Got a big day tomorrow. Yeah,
Right?
yeah, you have to teach school, and you have to be back in this place in like 4 hours. Like, you are not
Exactly.
in this classroom at no 2:30 in the morning, drawing blood from a Mogwai as a middle school science teacher. It's
I loved it. It was a good little just haha. Here's a little thing that obviously no one would ever do because let's be real, teachers definitely don't get paid enough. And it doesn't matter if you think that you found the most like rare thing ever. You're not going to like you could have taken it home. Like you don't want to hang out in your dirty little classroom
Right.
where you're just like running experiments. Also, a middle school science teacher. Let's think about this where he's like I'm going to take its blood and do all this random stuff.
What are you gonna do with that?
Exactly. I'm sorry, sir. Do you have an entire like medical team that you're just over here like, here, will you run the analysis on this for me? Thank you.
Yeah. Do you have a centrifuge just back there just running samples that we don't see or
Of
know
course.
about?
So let's get to the other part where we find the other eggs. And they're starting to hatch in the house. Mom goes up the stairs because she's like, what's happening here? And there's just smoke coming all down the attic. And she's just like, I'm still just going to go up and look.
Yeah.
Like, it's the very, like, 80s mom to be like, I'm just going to check. Make sure everything's fine and dandy up here. And then that woman just starts kicking ass.
Yes. She is down to clown.
I forgot how much, like, she just, like, completely went over the top with everything. She threw one in a microwave and turned on the microwave. She threw one, when, Billy got there and they kicked it into the fire. I was like, good God, you guys are taking these things out in the most dramatic, painful way possible.
Right. She
Oh, yeah, she had the one in the blender.
yes. She had the one in the blender. She stabbed one. The spray that she used to get the one in the microwave, I thought for years that was like some nonstick cooking spray, like some Pam or something. No, it was like dust and mite spray. Because I saw it. I saw the label on it for the first time.
Are you
For the
serious?
first time ever. It was next to the microwave. It was bug spray. And I was like, that's weird that was on the counter, but I can't say nothing because I have done that before where I'll spray along the edge of, I'll spray some bug spray along the edge of the kitchen or something, and then I put it on the counter. Now, granted, mine,
But it totally looks like Pam.
it
Let's be real.
100% looks like Pam. But no, it is in fact, I think it says like mite killer or like flea and tick killer, something like that. So, yeah.
It's fair. They've got a dog. I guess.
That song that the Gremlins put on, Do You See What I See? That is my introduction to that song as well. And in my brain now, for now and forever, that song is forever linked with Gremlins whenever I hear it on the radio or I hear it anywhere else out in the big wide world. I immediately think Gremlins and Billy's mom walking around the corner with a chef's knife
Yeah.
ready to wreak havoc. You know, Billy's mom is the only person in this movie where I'm like, okay, you got it, you got your shit together, lady. I don't know how you ended up with this man, but you know, you're the MVP, you're the OG.
Also, does this woman work? Because they weren't joking when they were like, oh yeah, Billy pulls the weight in the house. And I'm just like, man works over here at a bank. Mom's just at home, like, cooking up a storm every time you see her. And then dad's just trying to sell these weird little inventions that he thinks is going to be the next big thing.
Yeah, I don't think she does. You know, it's never really addressed, but I think she is the
She's one of those classic little
Stere-
stay-at-home housewives.
yeah, those stereotypical, 80s moms, stay at home, single, or single income can do can get you all that kind of stuff. Do you want to talk about Miss Deagle or do you want to talk about the racist snowplow man? Which one do you want to cover first?
I thought you'd never ask. All right. I was already thinking about Miss Deagle. Let's go for this old hag.
Okay, because I feel like they don't know how we're supposed to feel about Miss Deagle. because she is set up to be like this kind of side villain who we're supposed to root for when she dies. Uh, but they spend the first half of the movie of her just being a complete, just mean old, crotchety old woman. And then when we meet her in the house, she's just this old, fragile cat lady. Like, oh, you poor thing.
Right? Like, she is literally like the definition of a Karen. She pushes her way all the way through the very front of the line, where it's like nobody says anything to be like, hey, this old lady's cutting in the line at the bank, and I've been standing here for 20 minutes waiting to deposit my check. Uh, Everyone's just cool with it for some reason. And God bless the dog for somehow just listening to this entire conversation and being like, you know what? Fuck this lady.
Right.
Like, literally just jumps out of nowhere. Also, the fact that my man really took his dog to work, and people that are management there are like, what's this dog doing here? Sir, it's obvious he brings this dog every day. He's got a little rope tied to it.
Right.
He didn't even bring it in on a leash and collar. The dog literally just walked with him the entire way and was just looking at him like, wow, I love this little journey that we make on the daily. But this woman, just every single time you saw her come into the bank, you're like, here we go again. Like, you know that that man, and anyone that has to deal with someone like that, like, frequently, you're just like, here we go. Here's the part of my day, my week that I just dread every moment.
Yep.
But no, for real, when it gets to the part where we're at her house, she's coming down on the little luxurious electrical seats with her little cat in her lap. And then next thing you know, she's thrown out the window on the seat, and you're just like, do I feel bad for her? Should I? I don't know.
Right. You know, and I think if they would have spent that last scene making her more of kind of like this insufferable person, we would have all cheered and been like, yeah, get 'em, gremlins. She was mean and needed to be taken care of. But no, they set her up as like this poor old frail, like, you know, she's yelling at her cats like, no, honey bumpkins, don't do this thing. And you're like, oh, man, she's just a sad old woman. You
Right?
know? Oh, all right. Let's talk.
Then,
Yeah. And then there's the racist snowplow neighbor person who is just furious that all the technology, he's drunk and hitting on Phoebe Cates. Sir, that is a young woman who I don't know if she's 18 or not. We'll just say she is. She's working in a bar. But, sir, you are drunk. And your wife apparently
yeah.
really loves you. Your wife is a sweet old lady. And you're over here hitting on Phoebe Cates while you're drunk at the bar, screaming about the Japanese. Like, what are we doing?
I mean, the very first scene that you see him over there, he's over there like, ugh, these foreign made cars, trash. You're just like, sir,
Right.
you, you're over here riding a tractor with no windows in the middle of winter. It is just freezing. How are you okay?
Yeah.
Where where are you at in your stage of life that you're just like, I just drive a tractor around town?
And
Like
I think what they were
that's
trying.
something that you just see on some back roads. Let's be real.
Yeah.
But this is like an actual like little town, little city. So
This is actually the same movie set that they used for Back to the Future.
oh yeah.
Yes. So you can go back and look, and especially like that opening kind of establishing shot where Billy and the dog are kind of running around town getting to the bank and stuff. That's where the big kind of town square is in Back to the Future, right outside the bar. When the snowplow neighbor tries to get in his plow, and Phoebe Cates is like, "You don't need to be driving." He's like, "You're right." That's the street that the DeLorean was on that when it got hit by lightning, to go back to 1985, because the movie theater's in the background and all that. Like, that's the same street. So
Hmm.
a little bit of movie trivia for you there.
Nice.
And now some real world trivia. This is aircraft maintainer lore. Um, I think what they were trying to do with this character was very poorly give the origin of the term gremlins.
Hmm.
It was established during World War II. He even mentions WWII, but it was a term that was established in World War II amongst maintainers, specifically aircraft maintainers, because anyone who's ever worked on an airplane for any amount of time knows that they just break for no reason. And then sometimes they just fix themselves for no reason. And it was said like, oh well, what happened? We can't figure out what was wrong with it. And it just kind of became a thing where they were like, oh, there were gremlins in the engine, or there were gremlins in the motor. And that's
Okay.
where, and then this got picked up by Disney. Disney made a short little animated thing about it back in the day, back in the 40s and 50s. They made a little Gremlins animated thing. It didn't look anything like the Gremlins from the movie, but I think
Hmm.
it was I can't remember if it was Bugs Bunny or Mickey Mouse or Donald Duck, but they were flying an airplane, and there was this little green man would walk out there on the wing and just start kind of ripping it apart as he's flying along. Um, and then anytime he tried to show it to somebody, it would disappear because you never saw the
Hmm.
gremlins. And I think that's kind of what they were trying to do with this character, but they did it so bad, like he was written so badly that he was just like, I hate Japanese people. you know?
Right? You're just like, sir, you can go home. Go take a nice little nap. Let your wife just like be the cutest old lady. Just be like, oh, I love you, sweetie. And you can go
Right.
complain to your cars. Go complain about foreign cars another day. It's, dude, it's Christmas right now. That's
Right.
all we're thinking about.
right. What'd you think of the bar scene where we have all the gremlins in the bar just straight up acting ass?
They're like a bunch of like, if teenagers could go into a bar and be like, like, little punk kids that you're just like, this is the fucking worst. Like, if someone was waiting on a table and they go up to this table and see it's a bunch of teenage boys that just give you that look that you're one, not going to get a tip. You're going to have the messiest table in the entire building that you're going to have to fully clean. They're going to talk shit at you and you're just going to be miserable. That's exactly how this poor girl must have
Yeah.
felt. As she's just like, I'm pouring beers and shots for these little things and I'm just trying to make some money. That scene cracked me up. I'm not gonna lie. The fact that they're sitting there, they're like the one gremlin that had three cigarettes in its mouth just sitting at the bar. I was like,
Yeah.
who's training you guys to like know how to do any of
Well, they
this?
watch TV, of course.
I guess. That's
There
fair.
was,
You know.
uh, I, I think a lot of my problems nowadays with this movie is that they don't. It doesn't seem like, especially once the gremlins are out running amok, they don't kind of know what they want this movie to be. Because there's some parts of it where it's campy and fun, and watching this bar scene seems like this is the spiritual precursor to what Gremlins 2 became fully. And
I love
a
Gremlins
lot
too.
of people shit on Gremlins 2 because they remember Gremlins 1 as being like this more of a horror movie and this and that. They forget, and a big gripe with Gremlins 2 is they say, oh, well, they had a gremlin. They had a girl gremlin. There was a gremlin in drag here that was sitting next to
Oh
Stripe
yeah.
at the poker table, you know.
I definitely saw that. Yeah.
Uh, so I think that this was kind of more in line with what Gremlins 2 ultimately became. And they were just like,
Mm-hmm.
"Well, you know what, we'll just move the needle to 11 and just make it all this." And
Did,
I think if you put Gremlins 2 in a bubble and don't compare it to the first one, or at least compare it to at least just this scene, you're like,
mm-hmm.
cool, it tracks. Like we're having fun. We're Hulkster's in it, everything's great. You know?
Did you ever see the Key and Peele skit
Yes.
about every time? Like I think about like Gremlins 2. It's just Short and Peele just being like, "Yes, I love it. Keep going," and people just saying the most outlandish stuff.
Can we have that?
And
Can we
he's
have
like,
Hulk Hogan in it?
"Gremlins 2 is definitely like a masterpiece in its own. Is it great? Yes. Is it trash? Yes." And that's all the qualities that it really
Yeah,
needs.
because even in this bar scene in this one, there is a gremlin doing a flash dance. It's got the leg warmers on. They even do like the video flipped up down or flipped upside down. Like it's everything except playing the song. She's a maniac on the floor, dancing like she's never danced before. Like it's just kicking them legs, it break dances. It's a very corny scene.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we go from that. Well, no, we go from there to um, uh, we go from that to the movie theater, and then the movie theater we see that they're watching Snow White, which again they're singing "Hi Ho" and they're all it's corny. They're dancing. They blow it up, and then from there we get the story scene, the my
Mm.
dad died, which is almost become a meme at this point. I think can we call it that because it's become so synonymous with the most out of place thing in a movie.
I love when movies just like throw this random little wrench in there that you're just like, what was the purpose of this? But no, I definitely think that I think it should be a meme. It's fine. Also, it's a 40-year-old movie.
Right.
Who's taking it for a grain of salt? Let's be real.
Yeah. And then like well even after like all of this corniness and campiness of the bar scene and the seven dwarfs, once we get into the department store, like the final showdown, it is like the tone changes a lot. Like this is when we get into like that monster horror type of movie feel.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the music's real minimal. There's only one of them. You know, the music or the music kind of like intense and Spike comes at him with a fucking chainsaw and throwing saw blades at him and just all of this wildness. And it really kind of turns into a horror movie until Gizmo shows up in a damn remote control pink convertible.
I love Gizmo. What a what a charming. He's just so charming, and the rest of them were just like the annoying
Right.
kids in the like. You know, when you have like a classroom of kids and you're like, oh my god, they're all so annoying. But you have that one kid that's like the golden child that you're like, if it weren't for this one kid, I'd probably just quit my job. And I feel like that's Gizmo.
You know what? That is a very good analogy. Uh, as someone who like literally 2 hours ago was surrounded by a bunch of children because I was at a school function for my kid. Yes, yes, that is. I could see one. That is a great analogy.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh. But yeah, little toy convertible just zipping on through. Just deciding that he's also gonna take charge, take some action. Bless him.
yeah, and then it just so happens that it's sunlight or daytime. Day breaks right at the right time, and he Gizmo hits them curtains and fries the main gremlin. And I thought for years that or at least for sure the first time I saw it, that they were going to do a sequel by having like that last little bubble pop on the gremlin goo that was down there that was just pulsating, that bubble. I was like, they're
Hmm.
gonna have like one little gremlin just pop out. And that's gonna be the sequel. They never did,
Right.
you know. But yeah, honestly, just like that last gory kill scene, that's good horror right there. Really good special effects. I
Hmm.
really like just how that last scene looked. Rules aside, just visually, it was great. No.
Exactly. Like Steven Spielberg did a lot of really good work
Yeah.
for this timepiece on something that like nowadays, like we said, would just be all completely animated CGI type stuff where it's like, but what if we could build these cute
Y-
little puppety robots that can just do all this stuff?
Spielberg just executive produced this thing. Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, it was directed by a dude named Joe Dante, who did he did a bunch of like uh kind of like comedy, actiony comedy movies
Mhm.
in the 80s and 90s. Like he directed Gremlins too, but he also directed this movie called Inner Space with Martin Short, where one of the Quaid brothers shrinks down real small and gets injected into Martin Short as a character. Um, he's done Small Soldiers, Looney Tunes Back in Action. He's now mostly a kind of a
Hey.
TV director now. But it was
Mhm.
written by Christopher Columbus, most probably notable for directing the Harry Potter movie or the first couple of Harry Potter movies.
Mhm.
So, like Gremlins was one of his first things.
Interesting. I just have always known like Steven Spielberg to be like Gremlins, you know?
Yeah,
Even when I was like watching like a little preview for it, they literally were like Steven Spielberg's The Gremlins and like stuff like
yeah,
that, and you're just like how you think of Tim Burton and The Nightmare Before
yeah.
Christmas. So that's interesting. All right.
Um, anything else? I think we talked about Gremlins. This is the most we've broken down a movie so far.
I mean, there were a lot of things that you could really break down
Yeah,
for this movie, but I think that's Gremlins.
it is Gremlins. Um, I think that brings us to the end of the episode, man. Um, I don't know. Is this going to be our last episode for the year? I think we might have one more in us for the year. I'm
Dep-
not sure.
it depends on someone's special little vacation
Yeah,
that they're about to go on.
yeah. It's almost been spoiled a couple times. A lot of people have tried to spoil this for my youngest daughter. She doesn't know about it, and nor will she know about it at least until the day before we leave, because
Ah,
she will be insufferable if we tell her right now. That is all we will hear about until for the next 72 hours until we leave. But
fair enough.
yeah, I think we got one more in us. I'm sure we can do one more. There's no telling what kind of news is going to drop, or you know,
Exactly.
or what in the world we're even going to talk about. But we'll figure it out. So yeah, that's what we do. We figure stuff out.
All right. So I guess we get to that little lovely
Oh yeah.
time at the very end of our talk where we say something that we've enjoyed about our week. This week's going to be a little bit shorter than what we're used to because we're recording ahead of time. So Marky Mark can get on a little boat and go do a cruise for a few days.
Yeah.
But I guess I'll go first because I know you like to go last and talk about all the lovely things in your
I've
life,
been
which
I've been
I can
talking I've been
assume.
talking so much this episode. I feel like every time I'm like, yeah, Gremlins, talk, 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 talk. I really if people are listening to this, here I go, I'm gonna talk again. If people are listening to this and be like, damn, Mark needs to shut up, I agree. I agree. Okay. There's many times I just get off on tangents and starts talking. Uh, yes, Raven, if you ever need to just jump in and say some shit, just jump in and say some shit. Just tell me to shut up. I will gladly shut up and let you talk.
Hey man, I know that you're just like, sometimes I gotta get it off my chest. I gotta talk about this stupid stuff. Otherwise, who you gonna go talk to it about? Say, hey Kelly, I watch Gremlins, and I need you to know about this stupid stuff of a movie that you probably also haven't watched in like 15, 20
She'll
years.
be like, I don't care. I don't care. I want to go
Exactly.
to bed. Like, leave me alone.
Uh, well, alright.
So, what's been making you happy
So,
this week?
it's been kind of a rough week. I'm not even gonna lie. I wasn't able to get my medications, my antidepressants that I have been taking for a hot minute now. And so I texted you last night and was like, hey, I think I'm getting sick. So I had to cancel. Turns out that what was actually happening was extreme anxiety building up within my body because I hadn't had my medications in 2 days. I finally picked them up today because my boss was like, if you don't go get them, I'm going to. And I was like, ma'am, you're not picking up my medications for me. It's okay. I can get them, I promise. Uh, I had like an extreme panic attack when I got to work today. And I was like, this hasn't happened in a hot minute. But the nice thing about it was the fact that, like, because, I think what really happened was the fact that I'm trying to get so many clients in, especially because I know that I'm going to be gone for a few days next week due to the holidays, which I'm very excited to finally go home, see some family, see some friends. But I think that I just put too much pressure on myself to try and make sure that I'm doing as much as I feel like I possibly can. And then I get really stressed out because I'm like, I'm overdoing things. Uh, and I think on top of not having my medication, at some point I just bust out like in tears today at work and I was like, I just got here. I don't know what's happening. But it just made me realize that the people that I work with are some of the nicest people because everyone literally was like, what's wrong? Do you need to talk? But they weren't like, you know, the super over annoying people that are like, I'm not leaving until you talk to me. My boss literally sat on the floor in the bathroom with me while I was having a panic attack, and she was like, girl, I just went through this 2 days ago. If there's anyone here that's like, I understand that you're like super homesick, you want to be able to go like spend the holidays with your family, with your friends, I'm right here for you. And so I think that was like something that really made me feel a little more happy, a little more comfortable. Because I really do like Kentucky, but I guess it's just getting to a point that I'm just like, oh yeah, I do kind of miss seeing people that I love. But that was my little thing that made me feel better about this week.
It is.
How
It's
about
very
yourself?
important to have a support system in place, and it's also very nice that you have work people that can also double in some form or function as that support system.
Yeah.
That's a very rare. So
Mhm.
that's very good. I'm
I
happy
know.
for you that you have that.
I am too cuz I've definitely worked at some places. I've had plenty of panic attacks at like the majority of my jobs, and I've had like some managers just be like making fun of me, and I'm just like, thanks, you're making the situation so much better. And at this location, I was like, I don't know where to go. I'm just go sit in the bathroom, which I hated. I absolutely hated because I am such a like germ phobia type person. But I was like, I need somewhere that I can just rest for a second and just cry and just do whatever I need to. But yeah, no. And then it's not like everyone was trying to make like, you know, when you see someone cry and you're like, "Are you okay?" Everyone was like, "We're just going to ignore it, but we'll make sure that we're still like very open and be like." So I didn't feel like super awkward because normally if I have like a panic attack or an anxiety attack somewhere else, I feel weird because people then just start looking at you like, "Is it going to happen again? Do you need to talk?" And then they come up to you and they just don't leave you alone. But I have really good managers, a lot of people there that I feel like are just genuine, caring people. So
That's good.
that is what I am happy about. How about yourself?
Oh man, let's see. It's been a very short week because we're recording on a different day, so I don't know. Um, we got a new couch, and that was delivered yesterday, and that was real nice because now I have a couch that I can lounge on. Um,
Hey, hey.
as dumb as this sounds, and it's gonna sound dumb, I woke up this morning and was like, I'm gonna go lay on the couch. Um,
No, dude, I feel you.
So I was, yeah, because usually my morning routine consists of me waking up and coming and sitting in the computer room and mindlessly scrolling the internet for no apparent reason. This morning I woke up, I went in there, I just sprawled out all over the couch and put on some DuckTales and just had me a good morning. So
Nice.
yeah, it was pretty cool. Uh, my kids, my kids are great. I like to complain about them, but all in all, they're good kids. I've got we did we mid to late December is when all of our extracurriculars just dump all at once. We had a piano
Mm-hmm.
recital this week, and I am consistently thrilled and impressed with my kids and watching them grow and become little functioning humans. uh, my 13-year-old, I'm watching her become this social person and have friends, and watching her interact with her friends is weird because I remember interacting with my friends and I'm like, Jesus, was I that cringy? Yes, I was.
Right.
um, Her friends, I actually told her this today, because all of her friends call me Alice's dad. That's who I am, and I'm fine with, like, they don't say Mr. Holland, they say hi Alice's dad, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with that. I love it. And I told her, I said, I really enjoy being quote unquote Alice's dad. And she was like, yeah, me too. My daughter Alice is so great. And I was like, shut up, turd. Um, but but no, like, I like her friends. Um, you know, there's she seems to have a pretty good judgment on some people. Um, she doesn't hang around the wrong element yet. So we'll see. I hopefully it stays this way, and when she gets into high school, she's not like, "Oh man, I really like this person." And I'm like, "No, you know."
Mm-hmm.
Um,
There's nothing worse than like your kid having that one friend that you're just like, why? What attracts you to this one person that's probably just like the most annoying child that you've ever met in your
right.
life?
And I am kind of curious to see which friends are gonna stick around over the next 4 years. Because she's
Mm-hmm.
in eighth grade now, and I'm more kind of curious to see which ones are going to stick around until that she will still be friends with. Well, I don't want to say still be friends with, but will still be like in that circle or close circle of friends. Uh,
Yeah.
by the time she graduates high school. So, but yeah, and my other one, she's been doing so good at piano, and she is just has more energy than Jesus, and uh, yeah, it's it's wonderful. It's wonderful watching my kids do kid things and grow up and do that kind of stuff that I can be proud of. Yeah, there's my sappy dad moment.
Cute.
So Yeah, and that's what's made me happy. Raven, where can they find you on Twitter?
They can find me at the spooky underscore Raven. You can also find our actual podcast on Nerd for No Reason on the Twitters and the Instagrams. Where are they finding you at, Mark?
You can find me on all my socials at Turtles Do It. And
All right.
with that, I think this is our first 2-hour episode.
Oh, good.
Yes, we are in it. We are in it today. Oh, man, this is a good episode. I'm thrilled about this one. I might actually really have to do social medias this week and promote it.
Oh,
I'm so terrible with our social medias, guys. Coming up,
bless you.
I don't know. Hopefully, we'll get another episode in before the end of the year, everybody. I have big plans for. I'm trying to line up interviews to do in January. So hopefully, by the end of January, we can have different people on the podcast to come and talk to us, and we can interview and hopefully do more things to kind of expand this and get it into more ears. I hope so. It's I have big plans for the upcoming year. So, and I can't wait for everyone to come along with us. And with that,
Lots.
go and do something wonderful in the world today.
You guys go ingest your medias and have some happy holidays.
Indeed. Happy holidays, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.